Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Don Salmon, a clinical psychologist, composer, and longtime teacher of mindfulness and yoga nidra. Don integrates insights from Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga, cognitive science, and modern psychology to help people experience deep inner peace through his community called Effortless Living. His work bridges the gap between spirituality and the secular, making awakening both accessible and grounded. Welcome, John. I hope that was a good introduction.
Thanks, Suma. Boy, when I hear that, I think I'm a kid from New Jersey. Who is this guy you're talking about? He sounds so serious and whatever. But yeah, thanks. Really nice to see you again. Folks, I've done a couple of really enjoyable videos with Suma before, and I'm always delighted to be here. Thank you.
Same. I've learned so much from you, and also some of the other guests I have gotten introduced because of you. It's been really a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So I would love to, I would allow you, I'll just allow you to get started because I know there are quite a few things we want to discuss in this video. I'll let you decide where should we start from.
Sure. Well, I'll start based on a request you have, but let me give an overview for everyone. So basically, Sum and I have talked about neuroscience and evolution and philosophy. So in this video, I'm going to really focus on, she mentioned our effortless living community. And when I say our, Jan is my wife and I work together. We've written a book on yogic psychology together. We've created courses together, created the community. And just to give you again an overview of the community, it kind of goes back about 8 years when we started a brain training course called Train Your Brain, Change Your Life. Then we started a second course on sleep. And we really wanted to have a community to support the course. But we eventually realized we wanted to invite people in to community where they felt this is not social media. This is a place of peace and of joy and, playfulness and delight online. They could tune into any time of day, any time of night. They had any difficulties. So we have the course, Effortless Living course, as kind of the foundation. And then we have, I'm sorry, not Effortless Living community is the foundation. We have several courses, we have many courses. What I'd like to try to convey today, we have a web page on our website that gives all the details. I have spoken to people. I make a little video that I send to people that I want to invite in. I met with someone last week, young man about 30, he's a brilliant pharmacist, and he's really interested in ketamine and other psychedelic therapies to complement our use of drugs. And we're sitting down, I've sent him a video, I sent him a letter, went to my website, and he says to me, what's it like to actually be in the community? And I thought, wow, I thought I've described it so much, but I realized he doesn't have a sense of what it's actually like. Like it's 3 p.m. and the mid-afternoon slump, you're feeling kind of crabby and you're ready to go home. Oh, I'm thinking of a 9 to 5 job. I'm sorry, I know everyone has different things, but say you have to be wherever you are for a couple hours, whether you're working at home, whatever. And you just feel crappy and you want some support. And maybe you could text a friend, but you have this community you're feeling part of. You just like go to the community and hopefully the idea is you'll find something there that may be as brief as 20 seconds. We have pauses like 20-second pause that will really shift your state. So that's a start. Now, before I say, so the framework is, I want to talk about the community, the courses, how we develop the community. But Suma wrote to me a little while ago before we started this and said, could you do some practices? So I'd like to intersperse them throughout. I'd like to start with one. Anyone who's taken yoga class has probably learned this. They call it Ujjayi breathing to give you, for people who are scared of Sanskrit, ocean breathing. A lot of people call it that to make it simple. I've known this practice for like 40 years. And just so you don't minimize this, even if you know, oh, I know that, I am stunned regularly, whether I'm in physical pain, emotional pain, after an argument or in the midst of an argument, whatever's going on, it's amazing how that can at least take you out of your story. I wonder if everyone, I know Suma knows, you guys watching, if you understand what I mean by story, there's a neuroscientist, Dr. Amishi Jad, at University of Pennsylvania, her main study is attention. And she says, drop the story and come to your senses. So we want to teach you in the community in 30 seconds or less. If you can learn as you're breathing, we're going to do it right now, as you're breathing, to drop the story. And in fact, this is magic. So what happens is, if you really do it and don't think about trying to drop the story, I'm going to come back to you in about a minute after we go through this and say, did you notice? And I'm telling you, you think, this is impossible. Don's telling us, so I'm going to think about this. You won't. I'm going to come back and say, did you notice that whatever you were worried about a minute ago, and whatever, you may be hungry, it's like, don't stop the video yet. Do the breathing before you stop it and try this. And then notice, see what happens. Okay. So the instructions, the basic instructions for ocean breathing are really simple. You constrict your throat as you breathe. So Janet and I taught this for some years, and I realized people don't get it that way. They can't get in touch with the muscles enough. What does it mean to constrict your throat? So we devised this. Now, I don't know if you'd be able to hear this. So let me make the sound. Can you hear that sound? It didn't come. Okay. Probably, yeah, no, it's not you, it's Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to describe it. You probably won't hear it. When I do it, we have some videos on YouTube. And I put the microphone close and do it. Zoom cuts out breathing sounds. It's supposed to make it, okay. So I'll describe it, and Suma, tell me if you can get a sense. You can try it too. So what we're going to do is only on the exhale, we're going to go, okay. I've constricted my throat a bit. Let's see if you try it. Let me see if I can hear you. Just, that's it. And do it. That's perfect sound. Do it long and slow, like. Try that. That's it. Yeah, you're doing it. It's funny. Zoom is cutting it out. I'm going to trust you doing it. And folks who are watching, I'll send Suma the link so you can see, you'll hear it on our YouTube video. Okay, but I'll do it quickly. Just we'll do this on and off through the interview. You're going to make that sound long and slow. You'll inhale, and I'll leave it for later. You're going to close your mouth and make the same ha sound. Okay, I'm going to have to trust, since you didn't hear me, you have some sense of that. Let's try one more thing. So using ocean breathing, you'll have your mouth closed. You feel that constriction. You feel that ha sound. See, I'll move back a little bit. We're going to do a simple Qigong exercise. And we're going to start. So get your hands like this. And this is fun. When I was studying classical piano at Juilliard, I had a teacher who taught me this saves about an hour warming up. Put your fingers as close, all 5 fingers, all 10 fingers, as close as possible without touching. And you'll move them closer. As long as they'll touch and move them back, they're too far away. And you're adjusting. You can feel them really, really closely. Okay. Now put your fingers down for a minute. I'll tell you a story about that. Let's tell you how powerful it was. When I was doing pain management work, psychological pain management work in the 90s in New York City, I did about 500 sessions. One young woman had multiple sclerosis, and it was advanced for such a young age. I was treating her mostly for back pain. Then one day she said, I have not been able to write my name for over 2 years because my hands have gotten so stiff and numb. Now, I saw she was very receptive. I'd been teaching her breathing and teaching her pain management to bring her mindful attention to the sensations and to release the tension. So I thought, I bet she could do this. So we did the same exercise. And I saw her face begin I saw the muscles of the face begin to release. And I had a pen. I said, take the pen and write. Just like, don't think, take it and write. And she wrote her name and just broke down sobbing. She was so stunned, like, oh my God. So before we try this little Qigong exercise, I want you to have the sense. Your brain, if you don't believe in mind, a lot of people are skeptical of mind-body stuff, let's call it brain, okay? The nerve impulses from the neural pathways that are active in the brain can travel through the nervous system of the whole body. And the more gently focused, the more effortlessly focused, the more you can bring a sense of care and compassion and even gentle love for yourself and for your body. This has profoundly powerful effects on your body, your emotions, on the most severe trauma. I've worked with people in severe trauma. Okay, I'm giving a long introduction to the simple exercise, so let's go back. So bring your fingers close together again. Let your attention just be absorbed in this. Like, this is like a little 4-year-old child. Like, wow, I can feel these, can feel like energy. You know, well, we won't talk energy talk for now, but you can feel this intensity. If you don't feel it, shake your hands for a minute. Shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them, shake them. Come back. You notice how much more tingly they are now? You feel a little, yeah, okay. All right. Now, let's do this. Remember ocean breathing. And we're going to inhale. Open your eyes for a second, Stuma. So we're going to inhale and move, yeah, out and exhale. Slow it down a bit. Inhale more slowly. Exhale, and let's bring our arms, our hands to our legs, close our eyes, and just feel the body. Feel the sensations, the breathing. Notice, you may notice, now I don't know what's been going on before this, but you may notice whether you have pain or you've been a little bit anxious, your nervous system may be a little quieter. Okay, that's all for now. That took less than a minute, okay? Now I'm going to ask you again, did you notice, I'll bet in my telling the story, in doing the exercise with your hands, shaking it, trying to do ocean breathing, inhaling, did you notice that you let go? Did you let go at all of the story of where you were and where you're going to be? You're a tiny bit more present doing this than you were before. Okay, don't need to answer right now, but think about it. And those people who are watching, go back and try that minute again and see what happens. And if you weren't, the answer is really simple. You learn to bring more and more gentle, playful, childlike attention to what you're doing. And the story, those of you who've meditated for years and your mind's still busy, there's many reasons why, but having that childlike absorption and love of simple sensory experience in the moment can bring about really powerful silence and stillness and spaciousness in the mind. So just keep that in mind. So with that, I'm going to go back to the story of how our course has started. Is that okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Any questions about that, Sue? Any thoughts, questions?
Very curious about how your course started. And this is a good, like a demonstrative introduction. So it kind of like roots you energetically to be prepared to absorb more.
That's a beautiful way of saying it. That's what we want to do in any presentation, like to get rooted. Again, you're letting go of the frenetic, the tension, the doom scrolling that you may have been doing, letting go of it. It's like, for one moment, I mean, they talk about the attention economy and how there are huge corporations and billionaires and now maybe trillionaires who are like, have these army of computer scientists and psychologists and neuroscientists to get us to like constantly move our attention from here to here to here. And to think that in 20 seconds, as little as 20 seconds, and I'll talk about the research about that later specifically, you can just drop that for a moment. And believe me, your nervous system is saying, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So in 2016 or 17, Jan and I wanted to create a really comprehensive course, and especially to bring something beautiful and inspiring to mindfulness. So to both of us, there's a good purpose. So mindfulness has been neutered, secularized, simplified, and it needed, I mean, if you had brought Buddhist monastic practices to the West and had people doing, 8 hours of meditation a day and trying to see that there's no self and examining, and doing cemetery meditations where you go out and anticipate that's not going to fly, You're a software engineer in the Bay Area, Now maybe they're in California, but anyway, most places, Okay. So the big thing was we'd both been teaching mindfulness for some years. I began studying it in 1972. This is before John Kabat-Zinn developed his mindfulness. Okay, so it's been an old thing. I studied the original Buddhist and Indian context, and I saw the richness and power there. How do you bring the richness and beauty and awe and wonder, which is how often do we even think of mindfulness in terms of that and the sense of love and compassion and richness of that? The moments you may have sensed a bit as we were doing this, a sense that this richness is possible in any moment. How do you bring that into an online course, into a presentation of mindfulness that people are going to relate to, right? So we knew that for many people, bringing in neuroscience was important to make it legitimate. It's not just airy-fairy mind stuff. But we had started using mindfulness in our presentations back in the early part of the century, about 2002. And we were using a lot of language. Talking about the anterior cingulate cortex, the enteric nervous system, and there are different levels of the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. There's the, different lobes, occipital, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm guessing that a lot of you and others may be zoning out at this point, unless you're a neuroscience nerd. And we discovered after a year or two, people didn't want to learn all these terms. They wanted to feel it was legitimate and scientific. So we could talk about the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of the mind body or the captain of the mind body ship, and it regulates attention, regulates emotion, regulates self-awareness. And those are basically the main things: planning, deciding, decision-making, organizing. Anyone here who has attention problems, that organization is your nightmare. Well, you can develop your prefrontal cortex, which will then create neural pathways, which will help with attention. Okay, so we needed that part. We wanted to include an understanding, simple enough understanding of evolution, because I have found working with patients, thousands over the last 30 years, that when you understand stress, and you understand that we have these survival mechanisms that are hundreds of millions of years old. Our nervous system developed about 500 million years ago. We have a nervous system that is not designed. I lived in New York City for 30 years. Our nervous systems are not designed to walk down 2nd Avenue and 9th Street in the middle of a parade where there's vendors from all over the world and there's people shouting and screaming. It's like, it's exciting that some part of our little 500 million year old nervous system was going like that, right? So it helps to forgive ourselves, have compassion for ourselves. We have these prefrontal cortexes, which are really developed over the last 30 to 50,000 years. They're very young and primitive. And you could think of human life as an adventure. Like, we have been given this extraordinary capacity, which is new, to modulate this ancient animal instinctive brain, which we pretty much are absorbed in our infant years. And our parents, if they know how to be prefrontal cortex whisperers, like, of course, PFC whisperers, they gradually help us to learn on our own to bring attention. Imagine for a minute, so imagine, because I know you've done a lot about non-duality, all that. Imagine as you're growing, as you're 4 or 5, your parents are playfully pointing out as you go for a walk, as you're going to the store, look how your mind, how your attention works. It's a miracle. It's amazing. And you can see, imagine your 4-year-old, I don't know if you have kids, but you've seen kids, on the floor screaming like, want my candy bar, right? And you think, we have that. Have you ever felt your inner 4-year-old? If you go to a market, you can feel it like wanting to reach for something that you don't know. So if we grow up learning, we have the capacity to open our attention. We can intentionally open our hearts. We can begin to learn to contact the quality of spaciousness and awareness, which is always present in the background. Okay, so to sum up, back to the Course. The Course brings mindfulness. It brings that quality of awareness, an understanding of neuroscience, understanding of evolution, how we got here, into very simple. Each week we have 2 to 4 minute practices. That's your practice. And then at the end of each week, it goes from like a 10-minute recorded thing to like ultimately 20 minutes. You can do at night before you go to sleep. So it doesn't take any of your day. So we wanted to create a course that's not teaching mindfulness. You're going to practice 20 minutes. And people don't do this for more than 6 months. Look at the research now. People take mindfulness courses. They take online courses. They don't finish online courses. And if they meditate, they do it on and off for a few years and they stop. They come back 20 years later. What was I missing? We wanted to create something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. If you just learn ocean breathing and you realize in a meeting, in a business meeting, you're about to speak and give a presentation, you have butterflies, and you realize if you learn enough how to drop the story, you understand those butterflies are evolutionary. You're not going to think all this in the meeting, but you've come to understand this is a nervous system response. There is a gut brain, there's an enteric nervous system that's also reacting. And if you may be digesting your food in problematic ways, all of that. You don't think all that, but you've internalized that. You can just spend 20 seconds ocean breathing and you're present. That's what we wanted people to get out of the Course. Our favorite testimonial was the guy who's essentially my age that I am now. He was 73, and he had taken John Kabat-Zinn's full 8-week course a year before. He said, I don't get what this mindfulness stuff is. So he read a bunch of books, took more courses, and then he took our course. And the one thing he said was, I feel like I understand. You've got this context to understand what attention, we do a lot. I didn't even mention a lot about the science of attention in very simple ways, but how attention goes wrong, how to change it, how you can't learn attention apart from the heart. We divide this up, apart from a really deep somatic body awareness. And he also said, I love this, he also said, because we also bring in what we call mindful, heartful, cognitive behavioral therapy towards the end, where we bring everything together. You learn how to use this to work through anxiety and anger and depression and frustration and trauma and all those things. He said, the way he said it was perfect. He said, this is the best therapy I've ever had. And I've had a lot of therapy in my long life. That was beautiful. I really appreciated that. So we have a course. At the time, we were charging $375 for it. And I think I mentioned to Suma before this started, I'm a terrible marketer. It's like, my marketing is like, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm sorry for taking up your time. It's a great course, but you may not like it. Tell you what, I'll pay you to take it. I mean, that's our marketing. Okay. So we didn't get anywhere. So we developed a second course. Also, I'm sorry, one more thing. Why it was so hard to market. Instead of using non-dual awareness, we talked about open, heartful awareness. Because most people don't want to hear non-dual awareness. What's that non-dual awareness? And it was impossible. We just could not find a way. If you're a marketer, the famous elevator speech, describe your course in 30 seconds. Well, open heartful awareness is like when you go to the beach or an ocean, or you go to the mountains and you feel spacious, and like I'm done in 30 seconds, I haven't told you about the course. Mm-hmm. So I've been helping people with sleep for decades, and I've composed music for sleep. I did research on it, and I'm really good at it. So I thought, I'll do a course. So we got 30 people on Facebook for free. And I started, there's your keys. Last time I did a podcast with Suma, my cat was here, but she's outside right now. She may come later. We'll see. Anyway, yeah. What's her name? The cat?
Her name is Nicola.
Beautiful. Nicola, you may get to meet Misu later. Okay. So we put together a sleep course, and we had this group on Facebook. And within a week, I realized I don't know enough to help. We had people with serious chronic insomnia. So I went and got 2 certifications in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, which is the National Institute of Health, the American College of Physicians recommend this before medication as the #1 treatment for insomnia. Last summer, we took 10 people through the course, and we had people with 20 or 30 years where they had literally not had 7 consecutive nights of good sleep. I can tell you, after the 2-month course was over, every person was sleeping well, and several had completely cured the insomnia. I just let someone this spring who was using Ambien and other medications and had really bad insomnia for the past, he retired and just started not being able to sleep. He's in his mid-70s. He wrote me about a month ago, a few months after the course, he said, I've been sleeping great and no more Ambien, and like, this works. All right, we're getting close to the community now. We're okay. We're back to last March now. So that was last summer. So in March, it's like a miracle sent from above. This guy writes to me, I didn't know, and he's been to our website. He says, your website, I love it. These courses look great, but no one's going to buy a course that's costs hundreds of dollars from someone they don't know. This is the internet. It's 2025. No one trusts anybody. You need to have a community. I said, well, we had a community with the course. No, you need a standalone community. Well, we didn't think that was enough, so we said, let's make some mini courses. So someone just signed up this morning, our Effortless Music Improv course, guaranteed music improvisation basic in a few weeks. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. Jan did this gorgeous with this Qigong movements, a effortless mindful movement course, where it's one of the most exciting things we've done. When we do it in person, I play some kind of drone, quiet music in the background. Jan leads it. And what we found in person, so I'm really eager to hear what people experience when they take the course, you begin to get the experience that your movement and your breathing and the movement in the room, the movement of your breath are all synchronized. You begin to feel like we're all, and this has happened so many times we do it in person. It's so magical. So we're hoping for like a mere $24, you can experience that in this course. And we have a basic breathing, relaxation, yoga nidra course. So finally, we opened the community in August, okay, just a few months ago. Okay, we're starting out. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I tell people about this? How do I let people know? Anyway, we're starting to build up. We have about 7, 8 people. Now let me try and answer my friend Nick, who I saw last week, who asked me, what's it like to be in the community? Let's see if I can give you a sense. Okay. So it develops, unfolding in new ways. So we started with monthly themes. So August, we just wanted people to get in the habit. Can you remember for 20 seconds to stop? When you wake up, I don't know if you notice this, Suma. I noticed this. I bet almost every person, if you don't remember, notice tomorrow morning when you wake up. Where does your mind start? Does your mind start in open, blissful wonder, awe at the miracle of being awake? To start with, damn, I forgot to do this, or looking at your phone, So what we're inviting people to remember in the community is 20 seconds, 30 seconds to be present, do some breathing, some relaxation, effortless mindfulness. That. Late in the morning, that's the time. I find for myself, I get a lot of work done. I work very well in the morning. And somehow around 11 o'clock, I'll remember to pause. I don't want to, because I'm on the go. I got to get this done. And then I have the community also, because I'm facilitating the community. I remember I have a responsibility that if I'm going to invite people to pause, I need to do it. Right? So let's try it right now.
Let's do it. I think my cat will also join.
Yeah, keep your cat right there. We won't do,
Okay.
we're not going to do a practice. We're just going to stop and be here. Yeah, yeah. And there's nothing, We're not going to try to attain any goal. There's no goal. But we can just notice, you know, we may have thoughts. What's Don been saying before? What's he gonna say? Just allow them to be there. There may be some of you may be in bed, may have someone in a hospital, may have someone on disability, may have someone who's struggling to get food right now, and there's a lot of financial worries. And we're not going to try and fight that or repress it. We're not trying to meditate and create a special state. We're going to allow, with love and compassion, everything to just be what it is. And those of you who've never heard this, let's say you're religious, let's put it in religious language, okay? When I was going to start with the Christian, let's go through a couple of religions, okay? In Islam, I notice when I say the word Islam, if you're not Islamic, all kinds of images come up. But Islam, in my understanding, when you are surrendering to the will of Allah, drop the theology, drop your images and your memories. What does that mean right now in terms of allowing and accepting what's here? I don't have money for food. My back is hurting so much, I'm not sure I can get up. I'm not sure I can meet the mortgage or rent payment. Do I really have any friends left? People aren't texting. All the things that come up, can I let go for a moment? So when Jesus spoke of the lilies of the field not toiling, and to find the peace that passes understanding. Don't worry, atheists, I'll get to you in a moment. Okay, in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 2, Krishna teaches, this is so beautiful when you get, I think after 50 years of studying the Gita, and maybe it's 73, just getting a sense of what it means to let go of the fruits of the results of your actions. So you're just doing, you're completely doing this. What Eckhart Tolle talks about, being in the now, or flowing with the Tao. If you don't relate to any religion, you may be spiritual, not religious, or you may be atheist, you can understand that there is a state of coherence. This is a technical term, coherence of the brain and nervous system, such that you begin to experience, whatever we call it, whatever philosophy is, whatever beliefs are, a sense of flow. Suma, I'd like to ask you some questions. It feels to me in your body language, there just between having the cat and now, I'm feeling a sense of letting go. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, in general, like I think I'm grateful to have these conversations, as well as in general the non-duality conversations that I've had. It has made the story kind of like you see the irrelevance of the story because
Right.
and I feel like that has kind of like and I'm grateful for a lot of these such conversations that has it has had like a secondhand effect on, although I was not looking for it, like it has created that, it has dissolved those stories for me.
Right. It's such a beautiful feeling when they even begin to dissolve, you know. And
Yeah.
I haven't had to work outside, for a while. I'm old and I still work, but I remember 5 years ago I was working. I do like these 6-hour evaluations and incredible pressure, and people are really, So I'm thinking of you as a software engineer. I imagine that your work, there must be a lot of pressure in the work, It's,
In a way, because I've been working from home remotely,
okay.
that has been helping a lot because
Mhm.
I don't have like I have my own kind of like focus project that I can just like kind of, it's almost kind of like meditation because you're focused on the logic and what the problem you're trying to solve. I luckily for me, I don't have to deal with a lot of like corporate world type of
Right.
I'm sure that dynamics can make it a lot more
Mhm.
challenging,
Right.
but working remotely has definitely provided a buffer for me to not
Right.
be in that type of busyness.
And it sounds like not only are you able to sort of absorb from the conversations and have it affect you, that over the years you've been doing this, it feels like it's gotten easier and easier. And I'm guessing from your experience now that just in the last minute or two, as I've been inviting us to just be here, that I wonder, you probably recognize, oh, this is a little easier for me than it was a year or two ago to let go.
Yes, for sure, because and I'm sure since you are deeply familiar with non-duality, it's kind of like when that story dissolves, it feels as though a big weight has been dissolved off of your shoulder, because until then you don't realize how many constraints you carry in your mind, imaginary constraints.
That's really, yeah. Let's before I say a bit more about the experience of the community, let me go with that. In fact, let me bring the point about layers and layers of story we don't even realize we have. And I'll talk about the last few months. So we start with pausing. And when you start to pause for the first time, you may get a glimpse that there's some kind of, just the fact that there is a story at all, you know. And the story may just be, I was doing this and now I'm going to do that just in the moment. Story may be, I am a Jewish American who grew up in a New Jersey suburb and lived in New York City for many years, and now I'm down south, and all the thing, a man of a certain age, right? And I may not think that consciously, but if I talk to someone, a rural Southerner who mistrusts New Yorkers, and there's some kind of, and they're being very kind and polite, there's some sort of tension, I can go, oh, I can sort of, and I can let go of if I'm aware of that story, and it may be affecting them, maybe affecting me. And in order not to get lost in reacting and being defensive, I can realize, oh, this is a story. This person, I can understand, and I'm not thinking this, but I can understand this is a story they've been conditioned with, may not be aware of. This story I can be a little bit aware of, and we can then meet and we can sort of relax, and they may feel me relaxing, and we can smile. I'll tell you a story about that. So after Hurricane Helene, which for people who aren't familiar with it, Asheville, where I live in North Carolina, in Western North Carolina, had the biggest hurricane since 1916. And there were, I think about 200 people died in the area. The first day, September 27th last year, we had no power, no water, no internet, no cell service. And we had not prepared and filled our cars with gas, so we couldn't have gotten very far anyway. And when we did go to the store, we weren't sure if we could make it a mile or two to the next store. So we literally didn't know. We had a few cans of food left over from COVID days, but they were kind of old. We actually throw them away. So we're at Publix. It's a big supermarket in the southern United States. We're at Publix. It's about an hour wait online. We get in this conversation with a woman from Florida. And we're talking and just being friendly. And at some point, we weren't talking politics. She looks at me suspiciously and said, "You probably don't like Trump, do you?" I didn't say anything. And she said, and then she smiles and says, "And it's funny, I don't care because we're all together." So she had spontaneously in that moment, because of the hurricane, because of the crisis that brought us together, we'd all dropped all of it didn't matter what race you were, what country you were from, what color of your skin, what your religion, none of it mattered. And she expressed it because she was like, I was wondering what to say when she said that. Like, you, whatever. And it's like, and she just smiled. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So one thing I would love, coming back to our Effortless Living community. So folks, Suma has just described learning over the last couple of years, these layers of stories you can let go of. So I want to do a thought experiment. This is something I would love to see happen in the community. We have subgroups. So we have the main community. We can create a subgroup of any kind. One is called Practices to Change the World. So let's do a little experiment. This is a thought experiment in science is something that's impossible. Like Albert Einstein imagined himself riding a light beam at the speed of light. As far as I know, you and I, we can't do that. Okay. So here's a thought experiment. I'll let you know, I'm not saying this is possible, but I want you to imagine. Imagine tomorrow morning, Sunday morning here, if you're in New Zealand or India, it's a different day, but in America, it's Saturday. So Sunday morning, you wake up and Trump and Netanyahu and Putin and whoever the heads of New Zealand, Australia, Mexico, all over the world, they wake up and their stories have dropped. And their hearts have opened. Okay. And in fact, this spreads by late Sunday morning, every person on the planet, whatever time it is, whatever day it is, this has happened to them. Remember, folks, it's a thought experiment. It's not just, I want you to imagine what it would be. What do you think some actions, let's take the United States. I know this country the best. So right now, there are people who barely can get food, right? Now, if you have both, I know empathy now is even controversial. If you have both empathy and compassion and wisdom, your heart is open, what do? You know the answer, right? You're going to find some way. I don't care if it's government, business, we're not advocating a certain belief or story. We're going to find some way to get past our stories and provide people, at least basically, what you need to eat, a place to live, a secure job, secure healthcare. I'm not taking sides. However you do it, maybe doctors will decide to work for free, whatever, or they get a business model, whatever it is, and education. So we know if you leave aside all the fears about AI, about social media, making kids, 20s, 30s depressed, the violence in the world, which I'm not denying all that. But in this thought experiment, everyone's taken our course. They're all they're members of our community or whatever. But they've learned, they've spontaneously woken up and their hearts are open. What happens? The world's transformed. So what's the lesson to come back to our community? What's the lesson from this thought experiment? That we need some magic pill to do this? No. That if you're in a business, if you're a lawyer, if you're a teacher, if you're a politician, if you're a software engineer, if you're a plumber, construction worker, landscaper, whatever you're doing, and you're interested in bringing about a more beautiful world, you could spend your whole life, and I hope people do get more active, and you work in your community and you get involved and create things. But if you don't do it in tandem with some kind of interchange, and I'm not talking about, we're not talking about therapy. We're talking about deep mindfulness, open-heartedness, somatic between the body, the whole body, the nervous system, understanding all this and doing it, creating this effortless living community where people can support each other. It can be a model. What I'd like it to be is a model for how this can happen in schools, in universities, in workplaces, heck, in pubs and bars, wherever it's going to be. So we had a month of relaxation, a month of breathing, and this month we're doing basic mindfulness. So again, we're learning to pause wherever we are, to remember to breathe, relax, be mindful. That moment we just had with your cat, to drop the stories, right? And next month we do effortless mindfulness. I think I can sum up, that's kind of the whole thing. I'll sum up very simply. Another story, right? This is nice. So I've been meeting some people on Medium and Substack. I post there and people keep writing, and it's kind of a great community. Meeting a lot of people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is interesting because it's people who also creating businesses. So last few weeks, I met a young pharmacist who's developing a business that's involving some combination of ketamine and psychedelic therapy to help people develop richer, deeper states of consciousness, particularly to help facilitate therapy. And as someone who's been doing therapy in that world for the last 35 years, I know when you have someone come in traumatized, severe depression, autism, whatever it is, and they haven't learned to surf the brain states, if you don't get to a deeper place, something touching the non-dual or open awareness, if you don't touch on that, it's going to be really hard to change. So this guy, Nick, I love what he's doing. We had this amazing, we met in a coffee shop. He's like 40 years younger than me, but we were both kind of excited about the possibilities. And another fellow, Sandeep, who is starting a company with this immersive sound and visual technology. And we were talking, it's so interesting, because this is where I want our community to go. We have an online community. I would love for us, for Jan and I, to get people physically in place in different parts of Asheville involved in this, working with mental health, physical therapists, doctors, and so and so. And in Mighty Networks, which is the platform we use, you have a feature where you can go to the membership and find out, oh, there's people in the Bay Area in this community. Let's meet in person. Oh, we have a friend in Kenya who's actually Indian from North India. Can't remember. It's where everyone's named Patel. Anyway, I forget. It's up in northwestern India. And she has a community in Kenya, in Africa. And if people there were part of our community, wow, to have people in Kenya and Brussels and Argentina who are learning these skills, and not just from our community, but creating a network where different people like Nick and Sandeep are creating, and they're working with doctors and therapists and teachers in their community and government leaders, local leaders. Imagine, let's go back to our thought experiment. Imagine this web of people around the world creating simple opportunities for remembering, connecting, whatever you're doing, to always have that pause to remember, to come from that deeper place, that more integrated place, that quiet mind, that open heart, that grounded, embodied state of your physical body. Imagine what that'd be like if that was developing. So that's ultimately our aim in developing the community courses. Connect with other people, inspire other people to do this whatever ways. Jan and I are thinking of doing it through busking. You know what? Busking is playing music in town. So I've done that on my own. Jan and I went out, sorry, a month ago in front of Whole Foods, and she read poetry while I accompanied her. And the poetry was meditative. We want to inspire people on the street. It could be anywhere. Anyway, that's my overview of what we're doing. Did that all make sense? Do you have any questions or anything not clear about it?
Yeah, I think you covered beautifully. You are emphasizing importance on like not only keeping it simple, but also integrating in everyday life at many different levels, living as well as community around you.
Right.
So that's very wonderfully described. I do have a couple of questions for you on that. I wanted to ask, have you noticed a difference in people being more involved if the practices are shorter, because you emphasize the importance of like keeping them only like 30 seconds long, not like too intimidating. So are you seeing a difference because of that?
Huge, huge. Yeah, and I'll tell you a bit about that. So I do occasional presentations. My friend Michael Johnson is a yoga teacher in town. He does a lot of yoga philosophy, and he does teacher trainings, teaching yoga students. And yoga students generally are called upon to learn background of meditation, yoga philosophy. I gave presentations in March, June, and coming up in a few weeks on compassion and empathy. I found instantly, because they were all learning standard long meditation. So I asked them, give me a show of hands, how many people now have maintained a twice a day, because I've been doing half hour to 40 minutes twice a day for 49 years. I'm a meditation nerd, right? But I've also incorporated pausing all through those years, very important. So I asked for a show of hands, and it's like, well, I did like 4 days in a row last week. Okay, let me ask you, I'd say, if I asked you to remember, because they all know ocean breathing, if I asked you to remember, and they know all, so I'd say, I asked you to remember for 30 seconds start ocean breathing, do a quick like 5-second body scan while you're doing that, because you can do that once you, okay. And you begin to become aware of your sensory experience and your body, your reactive, whatever reactive emotions, whatever story is going on, you can learn to do that in 30 seconds. Right? How many of you would do that? Oh, I can do that like 5, every time you get a notification on your phone, right? Little ding, before you look at it and scroll for 20, you're going to scroll for 10 minutes, right? You have no excuses, right? If you're going to scroll for 10 minutes, you have 30 seconds, right? But wait, I don't have 10 minutes plus 30 seconds. Yeah, you do, right? You're going to scroll for 9 minutes and 30 seconds and take 30 seconds first to stop. You can do it. So your answer is absolutely. And let me give you some research I discovered recently. There's this guy, Dr. Eli Sussman, he's young. I think he's probably in his late 30s. To me, that's young. Okay. So he did some research at UC Berkeley, and I'll recommend his site. It's called Micro Practices. Just look up SUSMAN, Micro Practices. He's done research, and this is so perfect for your question. 20 seconds of concentrated practice is more effective than our typical 20-minute, what's for dinner? Oh, damn, I couldn't have that, oh, what a great meditation, 20 seconds. Yes. So the simplest answer to your question is yes. And there's such a relief. Really, I don't like, I don't like meditating for 20 minutes. Well, I can teach you in a way you will like it, but it takes commitment. It's going to take some months, you want something right now, learn these practices. I like
That's
to, yeah, for me, I like 2 minutes basically, but 20 seconds can work too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said that's really great. And this is something you can do even in a work meeting just before your work meeting starts over Zoom.
Do it during the work meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know that you're, Yeah, I'm realizing that and this is serious. I would love to deck my boss. I'd love to punch him to the floor. And you can admit that, hey, I'm pissed, whatever. And you see it. And you're breathing and you're relaxed and you let go. You may even generate some compassion. Like, a lot of the difficulty your manager is having is, hey, maybe it's because of me. I didn't realize it. Maybe it's something I do. Anyway, you can learn to see all this in 30 seconds. And if you then go like for therapy, and I've seen this over many, many years. I've seen it with people I've worked with who've done. The therapist is so grateful. Like, oh, I tell you these things that most of my patients aren't aware of. Like, you're saying, yeah, I see that, and this, and this too. And the all good therapists want you to learn to have compassion for yourself. So, for example, if you watch your mind when you're feeling self-critical, and imagine saying that to any friend, you would never say those things to your friends, right? Okay. So you see yourself beating yourself up, and then you'll be worse. Like, oh my God, I'm so terrible and horrible person. And like with the pause, you're like, just stop. You stop. You see it, and you kind of smile. You may feel the pain. You may feel shame, and you can embrace that and see that. I mean, you're learning in these pauses. You're learning such rich, powerful things. And then you can share them with your children, with your friends, with your partner, with your parents. And instead of saying, dear, let's sit for 20 minutes, no, I'm sorry, I got the football game, I got my girlfriends to go see. I'm sorry, I'm not, let's just breathe for a minute. And imagine in the midst of an argument. You may have had one argument in your life, right? Someone, maybe one or two. Okay. So everyone can relate, right? You're in this argument. Jan and I have explored this over the years. And, it's very tricky because you can't use like you're doing something kind of off. You think, well, I think we should pause now. Like, no, we're not, like, okay. So you kind of have to come to a point where like you both feel like we both recognize we're like lost in the story. You realize, right, okay, and you can like stop and laugh about it. It's interesting. I want to have a subgroup for mindful, heartful relationships. Because if you can learn it's a lifelong process of learning. Lifelong process. There are awakened masters who say, yeah, when I'm with my kids, it brings stuff up. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea to have mindfulness focused friendships and relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate talking with you because I have a sense that you have an aspiration to bring a sense of presence to this
I,
conversation.
yeah, I absolutely I have a lot of passion for these subjects. I'm in a stage of I'm still absorbing. I haven't figured out how to bring it into the world.
Yeah, yeah. I think what happens is I've read a lot, and for a lot of time, a lot of years, I thought I can figure out how to do this. And a lot of times, difficult moments in relationships are the times that really teach us, like if you're sincere, and I am so profoundly grateful that Jan and I can have conversations where we feel safe so we can reveal our own vulnerability and then give feedback, and it becomes a practice, not something, serious, I wanted to bring in something about that playfulness. I love this, because people often approach us from a place of suffering and wanting to heal themselves and want to get better. Or I think in your case, in my case, it came just, I suddenly one day when I was 17 had this glimpse of for me, it was God. And I was an atheist. I woke up that morning an atheist. I looked around one moment later in the day and said, oh, I never knew they were talking about. I just saw. I saw this light, this reality everywhere. I don't talk about this too much, so let's let's pretend I didn't say that. But anyway, that for me that was what. But a lot of people come to this from suffering, and they get very serious and read this book and go to this therapist and go to this workshop and find out resolve my suffering. So we call our community effortless living, not just because it's a slogan. There's effortless mindfulness, and I can explain that intellectually. But here's the image I have, and I bring this up over and over again. I was working with a big time marketer a couple of years ago, just for a few weeks. It's too expensive for me. He had people earning like 100,000. He had one guy who was earning $100,000 a month. He was selling mindfulness scripts. I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm sorry. If you need to pay for a script for mindfulness, you probably shouldn't be teaching mindfulness. But that's my one critical thought for today. But anyway, at some point, this guy is taking his 2-year-old daughter for a walk, and they're in a big city, and they have this plan to go somewhere, right? 2-year-olds don't go with plans, right? So at some point, she stoops down and she sees coming out through the city pavement these blades of grass. This is the most exciting thing she's seen in weeks. And she's down on the ground. And this guy is like, I don't want to say his name. This guy's like, kind of, okay, I need to wait and let her do her thing. And she's examining the grass. And like she's looking at how the blade of grass glints in the sun, and she's feeling the texture. Now, she never went to a Jack Cornfield workshop where you like John Kabat-Zinn actually has the raisin exercise where you taste the raisin, you don't bite into it. She never learned any instructions, but she was like demonstrating the most perfect moment of effortless mindfulness you could imagine with no instructions. And if we look at our days, in fact, before you come to our community or pay any money for a course, if you look at your day, any day, you will notice moments when you're spontaneously mindful. I'll tell you another story. It's a religious story. Okay. So 2 Jehovah's Witnesses were coming down the street, and they were coming to the door, and Jan is saying, she knows I'm going to challenge them. So Don, leave them alone, leave them alone. I said, no. It's like, I'll be nice. They come up, and I said, I just wonder, have you guys ever heard of contemplative prayer? I knew that. This is me being mischievous. I knew they hadn't. They say, what's that? Well, you're praying, you're saying the sound. You just like let the words go, just open. They say, oh, no, that's no good. That lets the devil in. So I already know. So I said, do you have a picture of Jesus in your home? And she goes, why, yes, we do. Right in my hallway. Oh, do you ever like come home after a day and you just stop in the hallway you look at the picture and you feel this sense of love in your heart. And she goes like, she doesn't see where I'm going, right? So she goes, oh yes, it's just wonderful. And you don't think about it, just like, no, no, no. I'm just like, I'm there. Do you think it'd be a problem if you did that for 20 seconds? She still doesn't see where I'm going, right? And she goes like, yeah, no, that's very nice. It'd be wonderful. I come home, it's a long day, I'm exhausted. I look at the picture, I feel this love. Okay. Then I say, what about 30 seconds? Now she gets a suspicious look and she sees she's walking, potentially walking to a trap. I don't need to trap her, just like I'm leading her somewhere. But she's sincere. This is beautiful. She thinks and imagines, she imagines herself doing this. Her heart is open, no devil coming in. She says, yeah, that would be very nice. And I ended it by saying, what about a minute? Could you do that? Would it be bad to do that for 1 minute? And you can tell she really wants to say it would be better. She's like, yeah, that would be nice. I said, that's a moment of contemplative prayer. That's the practice of contemplative prayer. Now, the example I use in Asheville, we're about 15 minutes from the Blue Ridge Parkway. And it's through North Carolina and Virginia, the most gorgeous mountains. Here's the Blue Ridge Mountains up in Virginia has the Shenandoah Mountains and the Blue Ridge both. And there's overlooks every 10 or so miles where people get out of their cars. You just stand, there's this vast mountain view. And I love it so much because we have a lot of motorcycle gangs who ride the parkway. You have Japanese tourists who are taking the pictures. I'm sorry, it's cliche, but we have kids coming from, inner city kids who've hardly ever get out in nature. And it doesn't matter who it is, tourists from got Midwesterners from Nebraska and people from wherever, France. And they all come in and everyone, you can see on their face, you were describing earlier when the story drops away, the layers drop away. You can see them stand there and there's this vast, it's a blue sky and there's some clouds out there and the air is so clear and it's silent. That silence up in the mountains. And you can watch the layers go away. And it may just be for 20 seconds. They'll go back. Hey, okay, it's time to go to the mountains. Let's go back on our trip and finish all our sightseeing bucket list, right? But for that moment, there's this spaciousness and sense of beauty and wonder. And if you don't do any practice and don't read anything and don't think about anything and just notice, you can keep a synchronicity journal and do this, by the way. I've never met anyone who didn't find this. Notice strange coincidences. And if you're a skeptic, doesn't matter what you call it. You will find moments of awe and wonder, little moments that we've missed. So I think that was a very, very, very long-winded, extensive, overly long answer to your question. Does it change doing short practices? Yes, it does.
That's really great to hear. I think you're doing some great work. It's very rare to find teachers like you who have such in-depth knowledge of so many different traditions and bring it together, make it accessible to people. And that's why I don't think you should be hesitant about sharing your experience at all. It's very valuable what you have done for so many decades now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm restraining myself for this interview. We've done others. I'll tell folks. Yeah, we did one about Sri Aurobindo. It was like incredibly complex philosophy and intellectual investigation, like really intense stuff. But I like just doing stuff that's everyday, simple, and easy. But may even touch deeper places. So yeah.
And I just want to be mindful about your time. That's why one question.
I'm fine.
One question I think viewers would appreciate knowing is if you had to leave them with one insight or one practice, where should they begin with? Like if they are not sure about how to get started, like what's one thing you would leave them with that could help them?
I'll give you 3.
Okay.
But simple. Okay. One for probably, and there's actually research on this, for about 80% of people, 90% breathing. And find what works for you. You'll go online and find coherent breathing it's a fancy term, just meaning even breathing in and out. And boxed breathing means you breathe in like slowly for 4 counts, hold 4 counts, breathe out, and hold for 4 counts. I love ocean breathing. That works for me. There's also, but one would be find a breathing exercise you can do briefly that shifts you a little bit. Okay. For pauses in the day, the one thing I find personally beyond that, move back to me. Yeah. So I will either do, there's 8 brocades, it's a famous 8 brocades, is a Qigong, it's over 1,000 years old. So there's a certain movements, we have videos of it. I will do that midday, and I need to do aerobics. I mean, 20 seconds. So I find if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the one practice that I do is a combined, I do breathing, slow breathing with movement and something, I'm not sure, just give me a second. This is what I love to do, So I love to do, okay. And I do 10 seconds of that, and you don't have to do it with a trampoline. If you don't have a trampoline, just do, whatever. It doesn't have to look good, whatever. So I would say some kind of combined breathing movement, could be improv. It's like, you can do that. Oh, God. I actually feel really good just doing that. You can do that for 20, 30 seconds. That is like, it's so good for your nervous system, for your brain, for everything. You forget everything. That's one. That actually is one. Okay. Number 2, and if you can do this, it's profound. But this thing that Dr. Amishi Jha says, and actually without the movement, if you can just do this, a lot of people can't do it as power. I used to tell Jan about this for months, and we would practice, and finally she got it. It was a miracle, but you may not get it. If you can do this, it's powerful, which is drop the story and come to your senses. So as a musician, I would say for some years, one practice was just like, we can do it now. Just notice sounds. Notice if you focus on sight. Now, if you're a really tuned, like Jan is tuned into beauty, so she will be going for a walk, and she'll see some old crumbling, some leaves and some whatever, and she'll notice the sunlight on it. I will never notice this, and that will just like wake her up. For me, it's like the sound of a plane going overhead, the sound of birds, the sound of I'm hearing now, there's an air purifier. And it's constant, and it's like a mantra, it's like a drone. I can immediately tune, like, the whole environment starts to come alive. It's beautiful. So if you know how to drop the story and come to your senses, if you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, he teaches it very well. It's a big emphasis in our community, in our practices, in our courses for sleep. When you wake up in the middle of the night, usually when people can't get back to sleep, they're lost in stories. And Michael Perla at University of Pennsylvania, who's one of the world leaders in CBTI, says, mindfulness, which is coming into the present, if you know how to do it, this is the Jedi master skill for sleep, for insomnia. Jedi master skill. If you can do it, if you can drop everything and bring attentive mindfulness to your worries about, typically at 3 in the morning, like, I can't sleep. I have a big project tomorrow. I'm going to be exhausted. It's going to be a disaster. Okay. You don't fight with that. By allowing, like, coming to the moment, drop the story, notice your body, notice what's happening in your mind. In terms of we'll mention non-duality for a minute. Okay. So we know from non-duality, the awareness, which encompasses everything, is always present. You don't do it. If you do anything to get to it, you're away from it, right? It's one of these paradoxes. Let me say it again for people not familiar. Okay. Let me say it really simply. Okay. In ordinary, the way mindfulness is normally taught, and it's beautiful, you're noticing how you attend to the world. And we attend to the world often with gripping, with control, trying to make things happen. So mindful attention is a gentle allowing, noticing of body sensations, senses, feeling, emotions, and thoughts. And it's beautiful. And that alone can drop the story and come into the present. What effortless mindfulness does is you turn the attention around and notice, what is it that's aware? We're still in duality, but we'll leave that for a minute. Okay? And you can tune into this sense. For some people, if you notice the space around you, so take your attention off of the objects and space, what that does is it releases the part of the brain that grabs onto things. So you're no longer just being mindful to objects. There's this kind of openness. You can don't watch my body as much as notice the space around you. And then notice there's something very quiet and still, kind of in the background, that's aware of it all. As you learn to inhabit this background awareness, you don't need any beliefs or religion, whatever for this, just you can see it, you can be with it, with experience. As you inhabit this background awareness, you begin to realize, is there really objects and awareness? Are there thoughts and awareness? You begin to have this sense, and if you don't know what I'm saying right now, don't worry about it, just enjoy it. You begin to have a sense that awareness and colors and shapes and sounds are all moving together, being together, moving together, being together. And the way this is taught to me in thousands of YouTube videos and many things is often very dry. It's sort of this calm and personal, but you can begin to sense an aliveness, what in a cliche way we might call a feminine quality, an aliveness, a richness, a beauty, a love, a sense of all the things I've been talking about over the last hour, that this all comes together. So in that moment of pausing, as you've learned to breathe and relax and be mindful and drop the story, it can, and be present, it can within 30 seconds or less begin to let go into presence. And I'm still talking about this, and I've noticed this over the years. People talk about this, it sort of still sounds like passivity, but what do I do? How do I bring this into my life? Do I pause and stop and then change and do something else? Or do you notice, and this is, I played for about 10,000 hours of dance classes where for 5 years, my job was to sit down at 9 o'clock, watch the dance teacher, and then improvise for 3 hours. So I was like doing something, right? Where that improvisation, some of it came from my knowledge. I've been playing music for 20 years before that already, but a lot of it was intuition, just knowing what to say. And I found then going into psychology, in therapy, I didn't talk as much as a therapist, mostly listening, but then you tune in, what words need to come out. And if you're aware and you're in presence, the words sort of come spontaneously rather than you thinking or figuring out what technique do I use. And even in research, doing statistics, right? I think you work in finance and okay, so I'm doing some sort of correlational statistics or whatever, I'm trying to work out thing. As you're working, even the statistics, working with the program and you're in presence, your mind may be active, but you're also open to an intuitive guidance. You know what I'm talking about. Doesn't matter what it is. I helped a guy improve his golf game. We just taught him this way. As a supervisor I had, he was obsessed with golf. I said, show me what you do. And I started guiding through relaxation and breathing and letting go of the plans, and his golf got better. There is nothing in the world this doesn't apply to us. I'm waiting for Trump and Netanyahu and Putin and the rest to wake up tomorrow morning. They'll join the Effortless Living community. No. To learn these, it can be, I don't know. You think I've seen enough suffering, enough craziness, enough madness. I've worked in psychiatric units, and I'm still at 73, still optimistic, like change, change can happen. We can grow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it can happen, and maybe AI there is a positive side to it where it
Right,
can take us to the era where we can do these things rather than focusing on rote level thinking.
right, right. Absolutely. Yeah. It could be really bad. We're not putting our heads in the sand yet, but it could be really positive. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation. And I really appreciate all the insights you shared in this conversation. I'll make sure I include a link to the effortless living. It's remember to be .life.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I'll send you the links and yeah, we'll get that all taken care of.
Yeah, and if you can also send the link for the breathing sounds, that would be
I
great.
will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. I really appreciate this. I feel like you're so good at drawing out. I know I'm a blabbermouth too, but you're so good at drawing out uh new things. I feel like I've learned a lot just sharing this with you. So I really appreciate this. Thank you.
It's an honor. I can sense that you speak through your presence. So I can listen to you for a very long time because your presence speaks more than the words, and that's hard to find.
Thank you so much. I would appreciate it. Thank you.